Hi everyone. It's my great pleasure to welcome everybody to the VIS 2023 opening session for the papers. My name is Yanqiu van Wijk, and I'm one of the 3 overall papers chairs. The other 2 OPCs are Tamara, John, you saw on the screen earlier, and me. Unfortunately, John couldn't make it to here, but he sends you all his best wishes. OPCs are part of the Papers Chairs Committee. We are the 3 OPCs, and there are 12 APCs, or Area Papers Chairs. These wonderful Area Papers Chairs were Alex Lex and Adam Perer for Area 1, Theoretical and Empirical, Tatjana van Nisbet, Yanqiu for Applications, Tobias Isenberg, Chao-Li Wang for Systems and Rendering, Area 4, Pierre Dragicevic and TJ Jenkun-Kelly, Area 5, Data Transformations, Ivan Viola and Michael Sedelmeier, and finally Area 6, Alex Endert and Wen Du. We were a great team, I think, and we had a very nice cooperation, but that's only a part of the whole system. We had a wonderful VIS program committee consisting of no less than 214 PC members. And we went to a complex process, and, well, then you need someone like Tamara to explain that.
We have a chart, but in fact, it's relatively straightforward. So with the paper review process, this is now the 3rd year of this new revised area model. And so there are, much like the old days, there are still 2 rounds of review to ensure high quality publications, because of course we're published as a special issue of TVCG in a long-standing relationship with them. So this year, as before, there were 4 reviews per paper. So 1 comes from a primary and a secondary, both on the program committee, and then each invites an external reviewer for each paper. This year, we did not have any process of shepherding. So abstracts come in, the program committee members do bidding and declare their conflicts of interest. Then after the end of that deadline, we get to the point of actual full papers. There's always some fraction of abstracts that don't continue on to submit full papers, so then those are culled from the process. When full papers come in, we do check for desk rejects for some administrative reasons like way over the page length or utterly out of scope, but in general, most papers do go through to the review process. In the first round reviews, reviews are written individually by each of the 2 program committee members and the externals. Then the primary writes a summary meta-review summarizing the results of everything and particularly giving guidance to authors about if this paper were conditionally accepted, here's what would need to happen in order for it to get finally accepted. We do consult with TVCG as part of this process before sending out acceptance and rejection notices for the first round. Then authors have several weeks, so it's a short compressed round. It's not a multi-month round as in the standard TVCG process, but in a shorter compressed round, they can make changes to their paper, and then it is re-reviewed. Once again, we consult with TVCG, and then at the end of that process, they are invited to submit the camera ready. So the stats for this year, we actually went up substantially with pretty much everything in terms of submissions. So the number of abstract submissions, the number of full paper submissions in the end was 539, and that's up from last year, which was 460. So that's a nice vote of confidence for the health of the conference. In the end, we conditionally accepted 139 papers and then ultimately accepted 133. The final acceptance rate then was roughly the same, although a tiny bit lower than last time, so 25% versus 26%. That's typically the range that we do at VIS. If you'd like to know more, we talk at length about the process in the preface, so please do see that when it comes out in the TVCG special issue, which will formally come out in January, although the papers are now available for looking through the early access mode. We also encourage you to please do, if you plan to submit to VIS 2024, which you should, please do read the call for papers carefully. Some things may well change, and we will try to be particularly clear about any process changes we make if that happens. So for VIS itself, we have many full paper sessions. Almost all of these are full paper sessions. There's one that's got a bit of a mix of full and short papers because that's the way the numbers worked out. I'm not going to read out every single session name to you, but I will point out that this is a mix. These are both papers that were originally accepted here at IEEE VIS and also papers that came from TVCG. So a long-standing cooperation agreement between VIS and TVCG. TVCG publishes the special issue, which is the collected proceedings of VIS, and in turn, anyone who has a TVCG paper during the year can choose to present it at VIS up until the cutoff deadline, which is at some point midsummer. Folks can also choose to present to other conferences as well that there's affiliations with, including, I believe, Euroviz and SIGGRAPH. So we have many sessions. These are topically arranged. And I encourage you to go to as many as you possibly can, but we realize that there are parallel sessions, so you can't possibly see everything. So VIS is going to be a cornucopia of opportunities of papers to see. We are delighted and excited about all of the papers. And I want to thank the many people that made this happen, which is probably most everyone in this room. So first of all, every author who submitted a paper, both accepted and unfortunately rejected, all these papers are crucial to the lifeblood of the conference. If your paper got in, congratulations. If your paper did not go in, please continue working on it and resubmit either to TVCG, to us, to other conferences. We would like to see your work appear. We also owe great thanks to the program committee. They worked very hard. All 214 of them had a lot of reviews to do and all treated the process with great and careful consideration and deliberation. We thank also the external reviewers, who are a key part of the process as well, and the 12 area papers chairs, the organizing committee, the larger organizing committee we liaised with quite a bit. All kinds of things happen in VIS through things like the tech chairs, the publications chairs, the general chairs, the core committee, the many people who actually make VIS work. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. The Best Paper Committee, which you'll be hearing from very, very shortly, we are appreciative of. Also the VSC, the VIS Steering Committee, and the VEC, the VIS Executive Committee, are both supporting the process. We particularly want to thank the Editor-in-Chief of TVCG, which is Hanwei Shen, for making the entire process of consulting with TVCG go well and smoothly, and also the Associate Editors-in-Chief that are liaising with VIS, which is Daniel Weisskopf, Shishelo, and Ross Majewski. Finally, IEEE Computer Society is a key part of this process, and particularly James Stewart from Precision Conference Systems, which is the paper review system. All right, thank you very much, and I will now hand this off to the awards, which is Best Papers, and Liz Marai, thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Liz Marai, and I was the chair of the Best Papers Award Committee this year. We were fortunate to have a distinguished group of 7 researchers chosen by the overall paper chairs and approved by the Visualization Executive Committee. And the members are, beside myself, Rita Borgo, Stefan Bruckner, Stefan Koch, Quan Liu Ma, Joe Wood, and Xiaoer Yuan. In terms of the process we followed this year, papers have been nominated by area chairs based on reviewer recommendations, reviewed by the overall paper chairs for a short list of 27 papers. The BPA committee was provided with first-round reviews and final versions of the shortlisted papers. And during our own process, each committee member ranked all the papers according to 5 criteria provided by the paper chairs. And then we met as a group to discuss and reach a consensus, which was unanimous. In the end, we awarded 6 Best Paper awards and 13 honorable mentions. Here are the honorable mentions. Congratulations to everybody. We will announce the full paper, best paper winners at the end of this session. Meanwhile, we're going to pass on the baton to the short papers.
Good afternoon from the short papers chairs. My name is Christoph Gard, and together with Takayuki Ito and Jonathan Roberts and Hongfeng Yu, who cannot be here today, we had the pleasure of co-chairing the short papers process this year. I'm going to keep this update short. Not much has changed in the 5th year of the short papers. Our review process was, as in previous years, we had one primary and one secondary review based on bidding and expertise, and then overall we had 2 to 3 reviews per committee member, so the load was pretty light. We want you on next year's committee, please. We had one external reviewer also assigned by the primary, and the review was single blind by default and optionally double blind. So the primary gave a recommendation, and then we discussed and made the final accept-reject decision. And then the authors prepared a final version, which you can now find in the proceedings. Last year, we instituted a change. We had an earlier deadline that was not too far behind the deadline for the full papers, so this did not permit authors to recycle, if you will, the rejected VIS papers, and that initially in the last year made for a drop in the submission numbers, but I'm happy to report that this year they're back up. We are much indebted, as the full paper chairs also communicated to the volunteers on our program committee. Here they are, all 140 of them. Thank you very much for doing an excellent job. Here's a short breakdown of the nationalities. We believe maybe we can improve this a little bit in the future.
Yep. Oh, sorry. Oh, this is the statistics of the submissions. We got 151 submissions and accepted for 51 papers. So the number is increasing comparing with last year. And the acceptance ratio is 33.8%. It's also increasing from the last year. So average score was 2.73, and the lowest acceptance score was 2.83, and highest rejected score is 3.17. Oh, sorry. This is a list of sessions of short papers. We have 6 sessions: perception evaluation, scientific visualization, COVID-19, bioinformatics and visual analytics, applications and design, information visualization and interaction, machine learning, language models and theory. And also, please remark that some of short papers are included in the full paper sessions. And also, best short paper session is held in today in 3-4D, announced by Jonathan. Yeah.
Okay, so the short papers is a fantastic way to present your up-and-coming and your work-in-progress results, and I think it's a really quick way, really good way of presenting your paper. But obviously, it's a shorter format, so we have a slightly shorter way when we look at the best paper and short paper in results. So we have a committee, and this year the best short paper committee was Daniel Arkenbright, Zheng Cheng, and Natalie Riesch. And together, we gave them from a committee, from looking at the reviewers' comments and the reviews, 6 papers to consider for the best papers committee. And from that, am I going on next for the awards? So I can't remember. Are we going next? So we have best paper, which is going to be considered in the next session, and the 2 honourable mentions. So we have 1 best paper, 1 best short paper, and 2 honourable mentions. So this is Draco, an extensible platform to model visualization design. And the reviewers thought that this was an excellent paper. Let me just go to my other slide. So they said it was Draco 2 provides a flexible and extensible specification format for the creation of effective multi-layer and multi-view visualizations. And the committee particularly recognized the time and attention devoted to testing and software engineering for its API, making this framework a great asset for the research community. So I think this is something that we shall be looking at, and be interesting to see the presentation later. The second honourable mention is data in the wind, evaluating multiple encoding design and particle motion in visualizations. And the committee said this was an outstanding contribution to visualization with its rigorous approach to studying motion and speed for communication speed discriminability. The study well motivates the protocol described and great details that could be easily replicated and data made to the community. So again, this is something that will be interesting. You need to tick these in your I'm interested in and go and visit these papers. So I now hand over to posters. Thanks very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bara Kozlikova, and I'm here on behalf of my colleagues Nansao, Wesley Willett, and Yazia, who unfortunately cannot be here. Maybe Nan is here, so if you are here, just jump on the stage. So I'll just quickly inform you about the process and how many papers do we actually accepted, and you have the chance to see them today. So we accepted 49 posters, plus we are also having 23 associated events posters, which will be displayed today at 4:45 in the foyer. So don't forget to attend the poster session and discuss with the authors. It will be highly appreciated to get your feedback to them. As for the award, we had an excellent committee consisting of Jessica Hullman, Vijay Natarajan, and Adam Pereira, who were also poster co-chairs for the last year of VIS, and this year they were responsible for selecting the best posters. And actually, we had the duty to select 2 honorable mentions and 1 best poster award. So who is the winner? The first honorable mention poster award goes to the poster entitled Enhancing Natural Language-Based Data Exploration with Analysis Pipeline Illustration. So congratulations to Juho and his colleagues. And if some of the authors are here, can you just quickly jump to the stage because I have the award to hand on to you. Perfect. Nan, so you were one of the co-authors. Yeah. Perfect. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So there's a certificate. Okay. Yeah, sure. Okay, the second honorable mention poster award goes to Refreshable Tactile Displays for Accessible Data Visualization by Leona Holloway and co-authors. So congratulations, and if you are here, then just come here. Okay, doesn't look like, or? Okay, maybe I'll just hand it over. Ayse. No? Someone is running, but I don't know if you're here. Yeah, amazing. Thank you.
So I just want to be clear, Leona is responsible for this poster. Great work.
And the Best Poster Award goes to Menaim ML, Communicating Machine Learning Architectures with Animations by Alex Fischer-Hebring and Duan Hong Chao. Congratulations. And it's still here. Okay, if anyone is perfect. Perfect. Okay, that's all from posters from this year. Of course, not all, because the poster session will be happening today. So, as I mentioned, don't forget to come. We have a lot of exciting posters over there, which is worth to see and also discuss. So, see you over there, and I'm handing over to VIS papers.
Are you guys sure? Because the next thing is the ACC. ACC would like to come up?
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Jean-Daniel and I are here to stand in for Steve Drucker, who is the chair of the ACC committee. The ACC is the Area Creation Committee, and the members are Steve as chair, Jean-Daniel, Ingrid, David Ledlaw, myself, Torsten, Möller, Mike Papka, Hendrik Strobel, and Shigeo Takashi. So, yeah, what is the ACC, the Area Creation Committee? The ACC was created when we went to the area model, and the ACC monitors, considers, and proposes changes to the areas that are the focus of the research presented at the conference. And the ACC also liaises with the associated events to see whether any of the associated events wants to potentially fold into the main conference. The process that we go through is basically we analyze submission data mostly, and we analyze especially the submission to the areas, the size and the distribution, and whether there is topical fits. And we particularly pay attention to operational challenges, for example, when areas get too large or too small to be a separate area. We also analyze how submissions use keywords to describe their contributions, and we want to understand whether these keywords still adequately represent the research that has been shown at VIS. And the other role that we have is discuss the goals with affiliated events. So for example, do affiliated events want to remain independent? Do they want to merge their topics into the main conference, or do they maybe want to switch to a biennial or triennial event, or maybe alternate with another conference? And we've had all of these models before. As for this year's data, we see that the areas are basically viable as they are, but we need to monitor a few of them. We have like a 20% increase, making 2 of the areas much larger than 100 submissions. And our target range is 50 to 100 submissions per area. And so you can see here that theoretical and empirical applications have kind of like exceeded this target. They both have received about 120 submissions. And so if that trend continues or amplifies, we might have to split them up. For example, theoretical and empirical would be an easier split than making 2 application areas. And then in terms of we also look at bidding and which papers receive bidding. And overall, I guess it's okay, but there are a few issues, in particular here on the tail, as you can see, that there are a few papers that don't get enough bids, especially no want bids. And so I would encourage you all to bid on as many papers as you can and to be generous with your bids.
So yeah, going on with the report. So we also look at the use of keywords. So we see if they fit the whole thing, if we don't miss new important ones. We do that by monitoring how they are used. I give an example here, and try to find out if we need to add some. We don't make the decisions, we just send it to the VEC and the VSC. But we look at what are the suggested keywords. So if you think that there are some keywords that need to be added, you can do that while you submit your paper, and we'll consider that. So this year, for example, sport was there were several additional keywords using sport, so they will be considered. We also do topic modeling or analysis of topics, and for example, using as the evolution of topics, we see that ensemble and sense-making are new trending topics. So again, they will be part of the things to monitor in the future. That's part of our work. And then we ask the associated events to send us a report on what they want to do in the future. So we'll come back a bit to that, but basically we can ask them whether they want to merge, and maybe if they have some particular topic like scalability, maybe we want to add or increase that visibility in the general conference or not. So we ask them, and basically all the return we received so far that they don't want, for the ones that are here, they want to merge, they want to try to preserve their identity, and sometimes they are not only paper-based, but also they invite people to help carry some new ideas to the whole conference and be in between two different domains. So it wouldn't make too much sense for some of them to just merge. So we keep monitoring that and discuss with the VEC and the VSC in order for them to decide what to do eventually. And so just to finish, for the future work, so we have 3 new committee members, Daniel Shafir, Helvig Hauser, who's here, and Yanqiu. So great, welcome guys. We'll try to help you understand what we're doing. And we started to work more on the issue of analyzing keywords and topics, which uses NLP. So here's a map. It's small, but we will get it on the report, on the different papers and topics that appeared on the conference, and that's kind of interesting, and we try to match that with the keyword used. We're wondering if there are some areas of this map where there is not enough keyword, or area where there are too many keywords, or keywords that are redundant. So that's the kind of analysis we are trying to carry on to give some feedback to the VEC and the VSC, and also to collect a recommendation from the associated events in order to balance between novel emerging fields and established fields. And I think what people need to understand, I've seen some discussion starting, is that we are under limited resource. So it's not like we want to get rid of all the established content, but given the fact that there is a limited number of slots, if the existing slot just stay there forever, there will be no new slots coming in, and that's also something we would like to have, new slots. So we need to take that into account, and all the associated events need to take that into account. So ensuring diversity, and they have to make a choice on their future. So that's about it. We provide an extensive analysis of all the data we collect during the conference. So you've seen a few charts, for example, for the number of paper received, etc. If you look at actually the report, which is on the first one accessible since this morning, the area committee report, you will see that there's been a growth of paper submission from last year, but we're still not at the level of 2019, 2020. So we are actually catching up with 2019, 2020. So looking at 3 years is good, but looking at 4 years gives you another picture. So look at this whole analysis, and you will get a lot of details. And if you're interested by our goal, there is a charter which is online, and we have also a public repo with all of the HTML and the process. We are trying to be as transparent as possible. If you have questions, don't hesitate to ask us and to reach at us. Thank you.
All right, so Best Paper Awards. First of all, we are lucky to have a sponsor for the Best Paper session who are providing the awards for these papers. And brace yourselves, video. Is there sound? Okay, so the sponsor is KAUST. And here's a preview of their facilities. So thank you, guys. The first Best Paper Award goes to Affective Visualization Design, Leveraging the Emotional Impact of Data by Xingyu Lan, Yanqiu Wu, and Nan Kao. The justification is, in an area that has only recently been recognized for its importance, this paper stands out in providing a comprehensive review and evaluation of emotionally affective visualization design. With its systematic structure of 170 surveyed papers and designs, along with a nuanced discussion of effective design, form, and motivation, it provides an important contribution to the community. It moves us beyond a collection of disparate design examples by establishing a foundational design space and framework relating design technique, thematic genre, and task. In doing so, it provides an important step for future work to evaluate and improve effective design in visualization. Xingyu, would you like to come up? Going to present the paper.
Yes. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Xingyu from Fudan University, and it's a great honor for me to be here to share with you our latest work, which is called Affective Visualization Design, Leveraging the Emotional Impact of Data. And this work is collaborated by me, Yanqiu, and Nan Cao from Tongji University. So first of all, I would like to show you two pictures. The difference is quite obvious, right? On the right side is a normal blue bar chart. However, the chart on the left turns the bar chart upside down and changes its color into red, as if the blood is dripping down. This visual was obviously designed intentionally to convey stronger emotion. In recent years, we actually have seen more and more such exploration of visualization plus emotion. Apart from such practices in the wild, more academic research has also been done, such as how to color visualization with effective palette. Over the past few years, we have also done a series of work surrounding this research direction, such as how graphics, narratives, and animation in visualization influence emotion. Briefly speaking, we found that the design elements in data visualization can indeed influence emotion. Even with the same data, different design methods can actually evoke different feelings and responses. However, after these efforts, we found that we still face several challenges. First, the definition and the scope of many key concepts are still unclear. Second, the necessity of studying emotion in visualization design has not yet been systematically clarified. Third, we still lack a clear picture to guide us how to perform such design. Corresponding to these challenges, in this work, we want to answer these three research questions to establish a theoretical foundation for this emergent research direction. So first, we conducted a literature review to try to find qualified papers. However, we immediately encountered some problems. For example, the phrase affective visualization has been used in different papers to refer to different meanings. To address this challenge and also help clarify the scope of this work, we categorized these papers into three research threads. So the first one studies emotion as the object being visualized. For example, some researchers extract emotions from music videos and called the visualization in their analytical system affective visualization. And second, some researchers studied emotion as a precondition that exists before viewing visualization, such as how people's positive or negative emotions influence their accuracy of data interpretation. And third, The third thread studies emotion as a result of visualization design. For example, one of our previous work called Kinetic Charts proposed an animation design scheme for creating charts that can express 5 emotions desired by data stories. So since the concept affective visualization has already been used in a broad sense, we propose that its definition can be more inclusive. So by referring to the definition of affective computing, we propose that we define affective visualization as a data visualization that relates to, arises from, or influence emotion. Next, we clarify that what our work intends to focus on is actually the third research thread, that is emotion as a result of visualization design. As the core issue that distinguishes this research thread from the other two is its emphasis on the role of design. We use the term affective visualization design to refer to a class of data visualizations designed to communicate and influence emotion. According to the definition, we refined our corpus and finally collected 109 papers, as well as 61 affective visualization design projects. Then we analyzed how the papers justify the necessity of considering emotion in visualization and identified 5 perspectives. First, emotion is important in certain domains. For example, during the COVID pandemic, we found a lot of news media had published negative data stories to convey sadness and the sense of urgency. Second, emotion can be useful. For instance, this study found that if the affective quality of the color palette is aligned with the semantics of a map, people would feel the map design more appropriate, showing that emotion can work with or even amplify rationality. The third perspective claims that objective visualizations do not exist. For example, the blue chart shows the unemployment rate in the US decreased, while the red chart shows the rate is constantly high. Both charts are good in data ink ratio, but they actually deliver totally contradictory messages, and they are not objective. Fourth, some researchers found that the tendency to avoid emotion in visualization design is not a golden rule. For example, designers in the Victorian age were bold to use emotional factors such as lavish color and pictorial elements to strengthen emotion. Last, the perspective of humanism argues that data should not be cold and cruel. For example, this pie chart was criticized by a researcher as a cruel pie, as you can see no real people and they're tragic behind this data about fatalities. Next, step 3, we analyzed the 61 affective visualization design projects in terms of where they were applied, what are their design tasks, and how they were designed. So for the where question, we found that most of the design projects were applied to domains such as environment, social issues, and health. Typical topics include climate change and social inequality. And for the what question, we identified 10 different tasks of affective visualization design. Due to time limit, here I just show examples for some of the tasks. For example, the collapse of this data-driven installation mimics the fast recession of the glacier in Alaska. It was designed to inform the viewers with the fact of global warming. And this website visualizes the huge amount of water consumption every day and advocates viewers strongly to change their living habits. This visualization maps people's stress levels to the appearance of a tree, guiding them to relax and reduce negative thoughts to make the tree look more healthy. And this is a large installation made for the 100th anniversary of Britain's participation in the World War I. Each poppy represents a fallen soldier and is also a sign of commemoration. For the how question, first, we identified 6 high-level generals, including the interactive interface, video, static image or painting, installation, artifact, and event. So compared with the 7 generals proposed by Sego and here in 2010, we found that the representations of visualization design has expanded significantly. So apart from static images and interactive web pages, we now can embrace more design options and possibilities. Apart from high-level generals, we also identified 18 low-level design techniques, which were divided into 4 categories: sensation, narrative, behavior, and context. So by integrating all the information about where, what, and how, we finally derived this design space. We've also created a web page where you can interact with the cells and also view the raw materials we analyzed. Finally, based on all the research, we summarized the 3 main future avenues and 9 specific research opportunities. The first avenue is to conduct a more scientific evaluation of effective design techniques, especially those underexplored and controversial ones. And also, we can try more methods to measure emotion more rigorously. Second, we believe that effective visualization design can be utilized to address a wider range of real-world problems and as a viable way to empower ordinary people. Also, more authoring tools can be developed. Third, although our work discusses the legitimacy of emotion a lot, we do not claim that emotion is always good. Actually, emotion has always been a double-edged sword, and the power of emotion may be exploited by evil people. Therefore, it is also crucial to study the ethical issues and develop guidelines to promote the responsible use of such design. And here is a summarization of the contribution of our work. And last, I want to say that our research on emotion is not limited to emotion itself, but we want to use emotion as a pivot to better understanding people and how visualization can serve people better, especially in an era where the rational forces of AI are rapidly expanding. Can we go beyond pure rationality in our evaluation system, and can we strive to create compelling, relatable, and friendly visualizations that make data accessible to a broader audience? So I believe that emotion is a good entry point for us to consider such important questions. Thank you very much.
We have time for questions. I believe there's a microphone halfway up the stairs on both sides. And while people are getting warmed up, are there situations where effective visualization is not desirable?
Yeah, okay, thank you. So for this question, I think maybe we can just simply have a think that when we desire emotion more in our life. So for example, I might say that we desire emotion more when we want to connect with people and when we want to empathize with people or communicate with people. For example, if you are going through your albums or recollect your past experience, that process is highly emotional. However, when you are just doing some analytical tasks by yourself and you do not need to communicate with others, in such situations, emotion may be not that important. But I do think that there is not a binary view between emotion and rationality, because we human creatures are we have 2 brains. We are both emotional and rational. So for this question, to sum up, I would say scenarios matters. Yeah, when scenarios goes for, we need more emotion, then effective design is more desired. Thank you.
Thank you again. The next Best Paper Award goes to Fast Compressed Segmentation Volumes for Scientific Visualization by Max Piochowiak and Carsten Dachsbacher. The justification is this paper presents a work that is very well motivated, designed, evaluated, and demonstrated. The authors took domain-specific knowledge about the properties of the data and used it to develop a novel way to represent the data as a hierarchical sequence of instructions to reconstruct it, to achieve high compression ratios in a data layout that can be used for interactive level of detail rendering. Such a creative reframing of data representation may also be applicable beyond rendering. Max, please come up. and Max will present the paper.
Yes, thanks. Hello, everyone. My name is Max Piochowiak. I'm with Karlsruhe Institute of Technology, and I'm presenting to you a compression method for segmentation volumes. Segmentation volumes are voxel datasets in which each voxel is assigned to an integer label. These labels belong to different objects, and the volume is thus a segmentation of space into separate object regions. Here are some examples: a fiber-reinforced polymer where individual fibers are segmented, a scan of a mouse cortex where neurons and axons are their own label regions, and a simulation on the right of tissue and cell growth running on a supercomputer at Research Center Jülich. If we want to analyze such data, we can do this with interactive visualization. And one way to do this would be to use GPU-based raycasting. We traverse few rays for all pixels in an image plane through the volume to compose a pixel color. Ideally, this requires us to have the full volume present in GPU memory at all times. But all the domains I just showed you can produce datasets that are too large to be kept on a single GPU in memory. So one solution around this would be to use compression. We could store a losslessly compressed version of our volume in memory and then decompress only the required areas on demand. A simple way to support this would be to use a brickwise compression. We cut the volume into small bricks and then compress and decompress all of these bricks independently from another. Then during rendering, we can selectively decode only the visible bricks. So in this talk, I'll present you a brickwise compression method that offers very strong compression rates, but at the same time is highly suitable for this kind of interactive GPU-based visualization. Let's first have a look at some previous work. The most important one, I would say, is Compresso. Compresso quite cleverly finds connected components of label regions within small bricks. The border voxels between these components are marked in black here and stored in a bit mask. The most frequent of those bit masks can be reused over multiple bricks. Then Compresso has to store a label only one single time per connected component. Best compression rates, however, are only achieved when Compresso is paired with some subsequent Lempeltsev Markov encoding carried out over all of the bricks. And this hinders the selective decompression of single bricks, as this LZMA would have to be reversed first. An alternative would be to use palletting, as is done in the NeuroGlancer framework. We store one pallet per brick, and then we only need a very small number of bits per brick voxel to reference its entries. This is very fast, but the compression rates are not optimal. I'll now present our method, which reconstructs bricks from a coarse to a fine representation from a stream of operations. I will always show 2D examples, but the 3D cases are just analog. We start by creating a multi-resolution hierarchy of our brick. We halve the resolution in each step until we end up with a single label representing the whole brick. Parent nodes here are assigned to the most frequent label of the 2x2 child nodes. We do this as we can't filter or average label classification information. Now, instead of explicitly storing a label per grid node, we store an operation per grid node that tells us how to assign a label to this node. Before I show you these operations in detail, let's have a look at what can happen if we refine a coarser level to the next finer resolution. There are basically 3 cases that can occur for a child node of a coarser parent. The child can have the same label as the parent. The child can have a new label that was not existing in the encoding before. Or the coarse regions from the previous level merge into each other on the finer resolution. So here, the yellow coarser region merges a bit to the left on the next refinement. We can see this in more detail here. If we look at this green node here, then on the next level, the yellow neighbor merges into it. And then for this yellow area here, this continues as now the green neighbor merges back. And this is an iterative refinement process of the borders of the shapes of the label regions that continues up to the original bricks reconstruction, the original bricks resolution. We will now define a set of operations that map directly to these 3 cases, and we assign one of these operations to each of our grid nodes. And these operations then tell us which label to assign to the node. So the first operation simply copies the label of a parent node. As parents have the most frequent label of their child nodes, this occurs quite often. Another set of operations maps to these cases where the regions merge into each other. So here we allow to copy the labels of axis-aligned neighbors represented here by small arrows. For all other cases, including those where a new label comes into existence, we read the label from a palette. But this time we do not store explicit palette indices. Instead, anytime we encounter this operation, we simply read the next label and advance a palette top pointer by 1. This, however, can lead to situations where we would have to introduce a duplicate entry in our palette as we can only move forward. So if this top right node here would be green, then we would have to introduce the green label again. So as a fallback, we add another operation that allows us to do back references. In memory, we order all of our nodes along a Morton Z curve and then assign one of these label assignment operations, as well as a simple flag that tells us if we can stop the subdivision for any node. As for these nodes here, nothing changes on the finer levels anymore, so we can just flag the parents and then omit all the finer child nodes in the following encoding. If you look at the occurring frequencies of our different operations, then we can see that these vary a lot between different operations, but not so much between different dataset domains, and even less so within the same dataset. And this allows us to very efficiently store the combination of our stop bit per node and the label assignment operation, and only 2 bit per node on average if we use a variable bit length encoding with static frequency tables. I'll now quickly talk about how we can use this compression for interactive visualization. We have a 3-stage single GPU rendering pipeline. The first stage simply checks all brick palettes with the current transfer function if they contain any visible labels at all. The ray marching renderer can then skip through all the invisible bricks and request the others for decompression. Then in the next frame, the decoding stage decompresses all of the newly visible bricks in parallel into some fitting level of detail into our cache. Now for the results, these are the 3 datasets. Cells has a very high label density. Actually, this full volume here is occupied with cells. This is just more interesting to look at subset. Fiber in the middle has very anisotropic label regions, and cortex on the right is almost a terabyte large, making it very hard to visualize on a single GPU. So for all of these different domains, we achieve compression ratios between 1% and 3%. They depend a bit on the brick size. So in practice, we use the middle case here, a brick size of 32 voxels cubed, as it is a good middle ground between compression rates and rendering performance. If we compare our method with a paletting of Neuroglancer or the bricked gzip compression of the HTF5 file format, then we are much stronger. In comparison to Compresso, if Compresso is used with an LZMA, we have similar, sometimes slightly better results. But keep in mind that this hinders Compresso's ability to selectively decode single bricks in a GPU context. So if Compresso would be used without this LZMA, then we would be much stronger. For all datasets, we achieve interactive frame rates on a middle-class GPU. A key aspect here is that we can use this multi-resolution encoding that's included in our compression directly for level of detail in rendering. So things that are further away from the camera can easily be processed in a coarser resolution. So to sum it up, I showed you a compression method for segmentation volumes that offers very strong compression rates, but at the same time is also highly suitable for GPU-based processing and interactive visualization. Thank you very much for listening. I'm now very happy to answer any questions.
Don't be shy. Okay, I'll ask a question. In your paper, you mentioned that your compression rates are not really sensitive to block sizes. And could you expand a bit on that? Why do you think that is happening?
Yeah, so this is mostly because this, the effect of the block size is quite limited. Oh, can I still skip through this? No. So I don't have control over my slides anymore. But to sum it up, the effect is mostly on the brick borders because we can't copy labels over brick borders because all the bricks are handled independently from another. So a smaller brick size usually only has an effect on the surface of the brick, if you will. And as there are not that many surface voxels in relation to the total number of voxels in the brick, this is a relatively small effect. So for small brick sizes, you notice that the compression rates are a bit worse, but after 32 voxels cubed or so, there's not much changing because the relation of surface voxels to the total number of voxels is not that high.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, thank you again.
Thank you.
Our third award in alphabetical order is Swaying the Public, Impact of Election Forecast Visualizations on Emotion, Trust, and Intention in the 2022 US Midterms. And the authors are Fumeng Yang, Mandi, Chloe Rose Mortenson, Hoda Fakhari, Ayse Deniz Lokmanoglu, Jessica Hullman, Stephen Franconeri, Nicholas Diakopoulos, Erik Nisbet, and Matthew K. The justification is this thought-provoking, engaging paper presents a longitudinal, large-scale, real-time study on the impact of uncertainty visualization of election forecasts in the US 2022 midterms. The study is researched, planned, and executed in an exemplary manner. The experimental results offer intriguing insights into the effects of these uncertainty visualizations on viewer emotions, trust, and intention to vote. Beyond the topical subject, the findings are useful to any uncertainty visualization endeavors. And Fumeng, will you please come up?
Hi. Can I have the microphone? Hi. Okay. I think in this session so far, we mentioned a lot about VIS 2022, and I will also start by mentioning VIS 2022 in Oklahoma. 2022 is a U.S. midterm year, which elects governors in 36 states, including Oklahoma. And October was the exact time when the governor election between the Democratic and Republican candidates was heated up. In the US, the two parties represent the opposite ideologies and support for different policies, and voting is not compulsory. On the second day of the conference, October 17th, 5:30 predict that Kevin State had a probability of 87 to win the election. After you seeing this visualization, let me ask you some questions. If you were one of the 4 million people in Oklahoma, who do you think would win the governor for the next 4 years? And if you are a voter, would you cast your ballot for the candidate you support in this election? On election midnight, the Associated Press called Kevin State to be the winner. Perhaps this is not very surprising. Let's turn our attention to Arizona. Because the Supreme Court overturned the Roe v. Wade on June 24th, the governor election result would decide abortion rights in the state. 1 week before election day, on November 1st, 5:30 predict the winning probability was 64 versus 36. Then the same questions. Who do you think would be the governor for the next 4 years, and would you vote? The vote counting in Arizona was delayed until a whole week after Election Day. The Associated Press called Katie Hobbs to be the winner. Now, are you surprised? So, US elections are pretty much between the two parties. States like Arizona are called swing states because they tend to have similar voter support between the two parties, which makes the election outcome very uncertain. As weather forecast, media news outlets produce election forecasts and convey them using uncertainty visualizations, which are viewed by millions of people over and over. Then, it is a significant question of how these election forecast visualizations impact the general public in a real election and generate real-world consequences. Our paper provides answers to this question. We show election forecast visualizations' impact on emotion, trust, and intention before and after the 2022 US midterms. Emotion can drive political behavior such as voting, and trust in election forecasts can influence people's confidence in electoral systems. Showing outcome uncertainty may change people's intention to participate in elections or potential real-world consequences. To this end, we planned a longitudinal experiment in the midterms. We built our own focus model for the governor elections and maintained our own focusing website. Today, I will take you back to the 5 weeks around election day to rewind our experiment and the elections. 3 weeks before election day, if you are a prolific participant and live in these 15 states which have uncertain election outcomes, you are invited to provide your baselines for trust and emotions. And this wave lasts for 12 days, and in total, 1,300 participants like you respond. Then, a few days after you finish wave 1, you receive a message inviting you to visit our focus website. You land on a map page and click on the state you live in, say Oklahoma, and then see a visualization of our forecast of the state. It shows you the estimated vote share distribution, and the visualization could be one of the 4 which we select as a minimum coverage of the design space. You may see one quantile dot plot. Each of the 100 dots is a possible win outcome. You may also see 2 dot plot, which blends the 2 candidates' vote share distribution together. You may see 2 interval, where gradients represent probability density. And lastly, you may see Plinko, which is an animation designed to let you experience uncertainty. Each ball bounce represents a Bernoulli distribution, and a sequence of bounces represents a binomial distribution, which further approximates the normal focus distribution at the bottom. In your view, this website is nearly a professional produced one, and you answer the embedded questions on the website and also view other information such as polls and recommendations on this website. Wave 2 lasts for 16 days until November 8th, election day, 5 p.m. Together, near 1,000 participants like you return and provide responses. Now, election is end. 1 week after election day, you are invited back to visit the website again. You see the election results on both the front page and each state page. You notice that the election result is part of visualization. In 1 dot plot, the winner is one of the dots. In 2 dot plot, you see both the winner and the loser dots. In 2 interval, the actual vote share is annotated onto the visualization. And in Plinko, the winner dot is dropped with other dots. You see the same visualization in Wave 3 and also answer similar survey questions. Wave 3 ran from 1 week after election day to 1 day before US Thanksgiving holiday. And in total, near 900 participants like you return and provide responses. Now, our experiment ends. Over the 3 waves, we collect 10 emotional items to generate positive, negative, and surprised emotion scales. And we also collect cognitive and affective trust as well as intentions to vote and campaign. Very briefly about our quantitative methods, we use multivariate ordinal regression. For example, for cognitive trust, the 5 items are modeled as correlative variate of the same model, and the model estimates the probability of selecting a label for each item. And the post-series of 5 items are averaged to generate a composite scale for cognitive trust. And the results are post-stratified to approximate the US 2020 census and to improve representativeness. Now, let's look at our results. We have changes of emotions, trust, and intentions over time to answer the broader question about the real-world implications of election forecast visualizations. We also have breakdowns by visualization and partisan leaning to inspire future designs. Today, for the sake of time, let's look at emotion and trust to get a brief overview of our results. So, people's emotions change around elections. Their positive emotion increases over time. If we eliminate the time effects and look at the same day, then seeing visualizations, maybe just know the information, intensify positive emotion. Also, People's trust increases over time, from seeing visualization in Web 2 to knowing the results in Web 3. Just revamp everything. So if we break down the results, then we can observe visualization and partisan effects. For example, in Web 2, we notice that people trust two intervals the most. And if we subtract the two parties from each other, then we can observe partisan difference. For example, we found out like Democrats trust Fakhari similarly regardless of the winner. However, Republicans trust the forecast more when their party is predicted to win, especially for one dot plot. We also have 4 sessions of qualitative results. For the sake of time, let's continue to look at trust and distrust in election forecast visualizations. So, before election, the main reason for trust is the alignments with pre-existing knowledge or beliefs about election outcomes. The main reason for distrust is distrust impulse, low trust propensity, forecast complexity, or disagreements with prior knowledge. And after election, the main reason for trust became forecast accuracy and alignments with their expectations or pre-existing knowledge. And the main reason for distrust is visual complexity or ambiguity. And this is just a very brief overview of our results. We highlight the affective and trust impacts of election forecast visualizations, but we also have many other interesting results for the audience to read after this talk. For us, in hindsight, we realized that our forecast model might be too good. Out of 33 states which we could predict, we were only wrong about Nevada. In the future, should we nudge the model to get sufficient data for a wrong forecast, and would that be ethical? Also, we must stress that it's really, really difficult to communicate uncertainty in the real world. We went through many iterations, even for small annotations, but we realized that one grand challenge here is to handle the complex social and political factors, such as pre-existing knowledge, partisan split, or affective polarization in the US. We do not want to make recommendations here, but our results should be able to answer which visualization better meet a subjective or objective communicative goal. In the end, I think we should all think about real-world implications of visualizations and how we approach this in future research. Thank you.
We have time for questions. Seriously?
Hello. Hi. So I find it very interesting that you are, great talk by the way, it was really interesting. I find it interesting how you were looking at these visualizations in the context of elections, which are, generally speaking, very emotionally charged. Do you think the results would have been different had you picked something that was more emotionally neutral?
I think that, at least for our emotion measures, yes, I think the results would be different. But since for, at least in the US, midterms are emotionally charged, and I feel like for us, we really want to have high-profile elections because that's everyone cares, instead of a local election. Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I will just repeat myself. So I think that's a really good question. And US midterms are emotionally charged, but that's something everyone cares about rather than a local election. I think for this kind of visualizations that are designed for the general public, yes, we should measure everything in a more salient context where everybody cares about this event.
Any other questions? Okay, to the next people who are designing for the next election cycle, what advice would you give them in terms of creating visualizations?
Okay, I think this is a really interesting question, and we have many answers, depends on our communicative goals. However, personally, I think that what I want to stress is that this really matters. Perhaps as a designer, at least you should care about the consequences of your designs, and maybe at least measure them for the next US elections.
If there are no further questions, let's thank again our speaker. And this concludes the first Best Papers session. Enjoy your break, and thank you again to the speakers for 3 really excellent presentations.